Good evening and welcome to another day to draft. Last week, we drafted Buoy County. Tonight, we'll draft Buoy. How ready are you? How prepared are you? Are you already getting into the Zoom or are you in the Zoom waiting? Well, before we get into the Buoy draft proper, we'll take a look at happenings from the week. A lot happened. We had reports from road incidents. We had reports from abandoned children. We had reports from the, proxy media trying to indict Ambazonia, trying to make it look like the fight is not worth it. The likes of Mimi Mefo and Info Hansen. A lot of them. This week, myself and Barrister Mbeseha dealt with a lot of reports coming from the home front. But today, we'll delve into all of this report with other analysts and other barristers. Barrister Fru is in the house, and of course, Commander Elvis as well. And before we get into the discussion proper for this week on Undaunted, we would like to get their sound and be sure that all their sounds are correctly connected. Well, I'm not Harper the King for today. I will just stand in and hopefully you guys would, take me as if I am him. Barrister Fru, good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted.
Thank you very much, Onye. Thank you for another Saturday. We're here. I can hear my voice.
Okay. Yeah, we can hear it as well.
Okay.
Barrister Mbeseha, are you there?
Very much.
Yeah, I'll get you. I'll see everybody sitting right there. Happy to be here once more.
Barrister Mbeseha, we seen just a side of you. You could just, you may just want to see so that we could see the whole of you. Yes, we want to have all of you tonight. All right, thank you so much, sir. Commander Elvis, can you hear us?
Yes, Onye, thank you. I can hear you 100%.
All right, so we started the discussion of Buoy on Thursday, and you did promise us that we'd see a whole lot of, buoyants coming out tonight to draft. I'm sure that they are waiting or they are getting prepared. What is the situation when it comes to the numbers we're expecting tonight?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I suggest that question is being referred to me, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay. I want to start by thanking our able statesmen, Mbeseha and Fru. It's always a pleasure to come on stage and share ideas with them. And I just want to appreciate ABC for always inviting us to come and talk to the Ambazonian people. As promised last week, the draft day has finally come. So the day is here. Just yesterday, which happened to be the 4th of July, Americans celebrated the 4th of July, which is the Independence Day for the great state that happened to be the United States of America. Their history and the story is almost peculiar to ours. For most people that don't know, you've probably heard the American national anthem sung in so many occasions, but that story has a unique similarity with that of Ambazonia. It is a story that goes by the fact that the Americans had to fight and get their control from the British. And this was the revolution that was fought very mercilessly. The British, all the way until 1814, even after the Americans had their own independence, did not grant America all the rights. And they had to fight to get these rights. So just to say that, the story that Ambazonia finds himself today, it's a story that is shared by the great nation on earth. We should be proud as people who the Lord has actually kept us alive to witness the Spirit, to be able to fight for something greater, something that generations down the line would always appreciate our service and our sacrifice for. Each and everyone that comes on board has a unique responsibility. Today, the diasporans have been given that responsibility to draft. That draft is basically a commitment financially to boost the morale of our forces, Amazonian State Army, to help our widows, to help our suffering people back home, to be able to overcome. It is a story of overcomers. And I am very certain that the Ambazonian people, not just people from Buoy, that they would resonate with this cry, that they would come out in the numbers. So far, we've started receiving donations that have been coming in. Friends and well-wishers of Buoy have started chipping in. And we believe that as the occasion would kick proper, more numbers would come in. We are calling on each and every county to send in their representatives to do their mobilization, to collect the resources that are so much needed at this very critical stage of our revolution. Just like the Americans had to fight to defend Fort McKinley, which was the strategic location that the British had moved on to try to capture after actually capturing the capital, Washington, D.C., and sending the president back then, Madison, and his wife out of the city, burning down most of the city. That is exactly how the Americans had to galvanize themselves, knowing that they were at the last battle, and they gathered resources and used a lot of manpower to overcome the enemy. So it is that decisive moment for Ambazonian right now. We know how strategic Buoy is to the Ambazonian War of Independence, and we expect Ambazonians to be able to understand and know that this is where that battle would be fought for, be fought at rather, and that battle requires each and every one of us to sacrifice, to come on board with whatever you have, so that we could deal that long-lasting blow, just like the Americans dealt that blow to the British in Fort McKinley, that we can deal with the La Republique in Buoy and send them packing. And at last, we will be free. And that is just a story that I wanted to let the world know and let the Ambazonians know that we are not alone, that we are following this trajectory that the great United States of America had to go through herself. So, Onye, over to you.
All right. I love how you took the history lane, and I'm sure that Ambazonians in diaspora who are the major drafters would be ready and would understand the reason why you had to go that route, to explain to them what this means and what every draft also means. Barrister Fru, before we get into the United States to talk about the bill signing that happened yesterday, let me just take you through one of the most shocking report from the week that I'm sure that you would want to say a thing or two about. So during the week, there has been this conspiracy of Mimi for, trying to, should we use the word troll Ambazonians, or trying to make it look like the fights that Ambazonians are fighting is for some other kind of gain other than what it is for freedom, for independence, and for justice. And so after the previous week, let me give you a backstory. The previous week, she tried to make it look like President Sako is a problem. Of course, myself and Barrister Mbeseha, with the communique that was released by Dr. Martin Mungwa, dealt with that extensively. This week, herself and Fru Hansen tried also to say that the ghost towns that Ambazonians are respecting and practicing has been marred by violence, and they are the reason why so many lives are being lost. That also Barrister Mbeseha dealt with within the week. That report actually came in on Tuesday. But, looking at it today, knowing that on Monday is another ghost town, I would want you to, I don't know if you saw that report. I know even if you've seen it, you've not had the, time to vent and to probably express yourself in the way that you would want to. So I would want you to actually react to that, because it's been a series. We don't know what they will be coming with this coming week, but 2 weeks back to back, this has been the route that they are taking. What would you say about the latest move that Mimi Mefo, Nsoh Hansen, and the other proxies that they use in the media?
Thank you very much, Onye. Before I say anything, I'd like to dedicate what I'm going to say to my venerated fallen comrade, the most effective Vice President, Ate, and the most venerated General Manager of ABC Amba TV, which is her pride for us now that we're sitting here and talking. I like to dedicate all this to her and to Eric Ate, Ma Endele. Ma Endele, rest in peace. Mr. Ate, rest in perfect peace. But they are watching on us. Having said that, Onye, I am 100% sure that Memi Mifo and for Hansen had been bought long ago by La République de Cameroon. Why do I say that? When I was still on the home front, those were the two journalists that gave me an opportunity to fight for Ambazonia. Memi Mifo started first, and Paul Hansen did a lot of insight on me, even one right into my home. And all was about Ambazonia and no strings attached, no, it was pure journalism, and I was the one talking about Ambazonia. And they let me vent my anger against La République de Cameroon. Having said that, for Hansen and Memi Mifo have been bought by La République de Cameroon. Myself and my colleagues in Douala and Yaoundé fought so hard when Memi Mifo was detained in New Bay prison by La République de Cameroon. And she was released. We made sure that she left the country untouched, and she left. Now she is now working for her country, La République de Cameroon, and for Hansen, a bona fide Ambazonia from the great county of Donga Amanto, would take upon himself and fight Ambazonia, giving all kinds of wrong reports in windows and trying to claim that our venerated leader is the one responsible for all what is happening. Look, La République has instructed the two of them to talk about the violence that La République itself is perpetrating on Ambazonians and try now to put the violence on our ASA during ghost house. La République soldiers have been known to change themselves to look like the ASA and go down Bamenda Street, Kumba Street, and all the other streets to kill and maim our people and blame it on the Ambazonian people. It is rather unfortunate. I don't know whether these people think about posterity. Because look, La République is collapsing. Memi Mifo has a mother in Bali. She may have a father in Bamileke land, but she will visit Bali. Would you want to talk about your motherland in that manner? A journalist who does not know how to marry the facts to her report, the facts on the ground, she knows it, and yet she has been paid to talk about, to dirty us and talk about us perpetrating violence during ghost town. That is untenable. If she thinks that she will succeed to stop the ghost towns, she has failed from ab initio, from the beginning. Because ghost towns will continue. That is the non-violent arm that the people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia have decided to use against the occupying forces of evil, the genocidal forces that are unleashed on the Ambazonian people by the old man sitting in Yaoundé.
Okay, so
it will not happen. The ghost town, yes.
I like the fact that you've made that very clear, that there is nothing that they can do to stop the ghost town. I needed that statement to really come out from an authority like you. Yes, please. We'll definitely come back to this. I just needed you to know that was one of the very shocking reports.
If they come back, we have already denounced their prime minister in Bamenda. He made the statement that ghost towns will affect the economy of Northwest and Southwest. Does Northwest and Southwest have any economy other than the economy that?
That's the question, Barrister Fru. That's the question. We will definitely come back to the economies of the Southwest and Northwest. We'll definitely come back. But I just needed you to know that was one of the very, very shocking reports that we handled this week. Just hold it there, please. We'll definitely come back.
I want to underscore the fact that if their prime minister cannot stop the ghost town, there will be ghost town on Monday. If he cannot stop it, who is for Hampton and Memi Mefo?
Now that's another punchline I need the people to take home with Barrister Fru. There will be ghost town on Monday. You've said it, and of course there will be. And you needed to make that statement as early as possible. That was why I also needed to bring in this question early enough so that we do not, let it fly past us. So remember at the beginning of this show today, Commander Elvis took us to the independence celebration of the U.S. Well, we thought that we should also bring something in that light, knowing that many Ambazonians in diaspora reside in the U.S. and that is where they earn a living from. So we need to know what's happening to the tax of the tax that was signed in yesterday by President Trump. So we would have Tabitha Akol come take that. And when we come back, we'll get into some very intricate reports coming in from the home front. And I'm sure that Barrister Fru would want to talk about some economies and insist on the fact that Ghost Town would hold on Monday. So let's have Tabitha Akol come give us all of the latest when it comes to the independence of US yesterday and what's happening in Ukraine as well.
One family, we shall join
the World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
One family, we shall win the enemy. We are one family, one family. I say one family, one family. I bet that with one family, oh, we shall win the enemy. We are one family, one family, one family, oh, we shall one family, one family.
We are enough. So let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
One family, one family, we shall join the war. One family, we shall join the war.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
One family, oh, we shall win the enemy. We are one family, one family, one family. I say one family, one family. I bet that with one family, oh, we shall win the enemy. We are one family, one family, one family, oh, we shall one family, one family.
We are enough. So let's draft, draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
One family, we shall join the football.
Can a single piece of legislation redefine a nation's economic goal? In a striking show of executive resolve, President Donald Trump enacted a far-reaching tax and spending bill on Independence Day, positioning it as a catalyst for job creation, stronger borders, and long-term economic recovery. While the move energized his base and aligned with key Republican priorities, it also underscored the deep ideological rift over what prosperity should look like in America. Now, well, as we delve into the details, these and many more will be explored in today's Flash News. Good evening and welcome. I am Tabitha Akor. Let's begin. The United States President Donald Trump marked Independence Day with the signing of a major tax and spending bill into law, a move that has drawn both celebration and controversy. The south lawn of the White House was the backdrop for the ceremony, complete with military flyovers and a cheering crowd of supporters, in what some describe as a politically charged display. Take a look.
Mr. President, this is the gavel we use to enact the big, beautiful bill, and I want you to have that for your
Are we ready?
We're ready.
Are we ready? Good.
A victory scene right there to the Republicans. While this event marked the signing of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which was passed in the House of Representatives by a narrow 218 to 214 vote, following a tense debate. It solidifies Trump's 2017 tax cuts, introduces deep spending reductions, and earmarks significant funds for border security and immigration enforcement. While the administration hails it as a historic achievement, critics warn it could significantly affect low-income Americans. The bill is projected to eliminate health insurance for millions and reduce access to federal food assistance, according to non-partisan analysts. At the same time, it offers permanent tax relief to high earners and corporations. Supporters argue that the bill will stimulate economic growth by reducing tax burdens and streamlining government spending. However, we see that the Congressional Budget Office estimates that the bill could add over $3 trillion to the national debt, which currently exceeds $36 trillion. Now, this decision raises present questions. How sustainable is a fiscal strategy that couples deep tax cuts with aggressive spending reductions? Can a long-term economic growth compensate for the immediate social welfare impact? We see that despite these concerns, only 2 House Republicans voted against the measure, underscoring strong party unity. All Democrats opposed the bill. Now, was this a political calculation on display? Now, let's take a delve into the event. We see that the July 4th event resembled more of a campaign rally than a policy announcement, with Trump flanked by top Republican leaders, military families, and administration officials. Fighter jets, including stealth bombers, flew overhead, a symbolic nod to American military might and the bill's national security provisions. Right there to see on our screen, it was an exciting day for the Republicans. But what about Democrats? What do they think? How do they feel? Their opposition grew more fierce. The House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries delivered a record-breaking 8-hour, 46-minute speech in protest, denouncing the legislation as a giveaway to the wealthy. The Democratic National Committee warned that the bill could alienate working-class voters ahead of the 2026 congressional elections. The party's leadership has positioned the legislation as a defining moment, not just for Trump's second term, but for Republican electoral prospects. This raises another question. Will voters view the bill as a bold economic reform or a betrayal of social equity? Republicans believe the bill delivers the largest tax cut in the United States history, along with deep investment in national security and structural reforms to federal welfare programs. A White House spokesperson also said that the bill is designed to slash deficit and debt while catalyzing long-term economic growth. Now, while the bill's passage marks a significant policy milestone for the Trump administration, yet it also sharpens the divide in Washington, with debates about wealth inequality, national debt, and healthcare access likely to intensify. As both parties gear up for the 2026 elections, the long-term impact of this legislation, economically and politically, remains largely uncertain. Well, the coming days and months will justify that. Now, moving over to the Middle East, we see that Hamas has indicated a willingness to proceed with discussions on a United States brokered ceasefire framework aimed at ending nearly 21 months of conflict with Israel. The movement's response, submitted through mediator, signals a potential shift toward negotiations involving hostage release and a possible roadmap for peace. The proposal, which was spearheaded by the United States President Donald Trump, outlines a 60-day ceasefire during which both sides are expected to take preliminary steps toward a broader peace agreement. Trump had previously hinted at an imminent response from both Israel and Hamas. While Hamas has expressed a positive stance in private discussions and internal consultations, certain sticking points remain unresolved. These include issues related to humanitarian aid, access through the Rafah crossing, and a timeline for Israeli troop withdrawals. Could these unresolved matters hinder momentum toward peace? Or are they typical negotiation hurdles in protracted conflict? Meanwhile, over to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has not publicly responded to the United States initiative. However, his long-standing position that Hamas must first disarm may pose a serious challenge to advancing talks. Given that Hamas is still believed to be holding approximately 20 hostages, is Israel's disarmament demand a strategic condition for peace or a potential stumbling block? We see the Hamas openness to this negotiation mechanism for implementing the proposal adds another layer of cautious optimism. But the group's history of conditional acceptance raises another critical question. Is Hamas using this as a political maneuver to ease international pressure or as a sincere step toward resolution? Even as diplomatic channels remain active, violence on the ground escalates. At least 138 Palestinians were reported killed in the last 24 hours, with 15 deaths resulting from an Israeli airstrike on a tent encampment in Khan Younis. We say that the Israeli military stated that it had eliminated militants, seized weapons, and struck over 100 targets, including weapons depots and launch sites across Gaza. With continued bombardment, the humanitarian toll deepens. Most of Gaza's population, over 2 million, has been displaced. Hunger is widespread, and access to aid remains severely restricted. Can any ceasefire framework truly succeed without an immediate humanitarian corridor and an end to hostilities? Moving over in Tel Aviv, families of hostages marked the United States Independence Day with symbolic protests, demanding decisive intervention. Demonstrators gather outside the U.S. Embassy, calling on President Donald Trump to secure a comprehensive agreement for the release of captives. Right there on your screen, an emotional scene. You see that a table with 50 empty chairs was displayed, representing those still held in Gaza. This act underscored public frustration and rising pressure on leaders to prioritize human lives in the negotiating process. Should governments be more transparent with citizens about the progress and trade-offs of hostage negotiations, especially when public sentiment grows increasingly volatile? We said that the proposed deal reportedly involves the release of 10 hostages and the return of the bodies of 18 others. Among those still missing is Avinatan Or, who was abducted during the October 7, 2023 attack on the Nova Music Festival. Many, including the families of slain or captive Israeli soldiers, are urging Netanyahu to ensure that any diplomatic mission to Washington prioritizes securing their release. Meanwhile, according to local health authorities, over 57,000 Palestinians, most of them civilians, have been killed since the conflict began. Israel's retaliatory strikes followed a Hamas-led attack in 2023 that left approximately 1,200 people dead and 251 taken hostage. With ongoing hostilities and the humanitarian crisis reaching critical levels, the international community could do enough to ensure mediation strategies are sustainable. Quite some life has been lost and properties destroyed. Peace needs to be brokered. Well, moving over to African scene in Kenya, 1 month after his controversial death in police custody, Kenyan blogger and journalist Albert Ojwang was laid to rest on Friday in his hometown of Homa Bay. As thousands gathered to pay their final respect, his death has become a lightning rod for protest and renewed calls for police accountability in Kenya. Ojwang, who is 31 years old, died while held at Nairobi's Central Police Station under unclear circumstances. An autopsy later contradicted the police's initial claim of self-inflicted injuries, sparking outrage and violent demonstrations in Nairobi and other parts of the country. Take a look. Now, right there on your screen, his case has once again thrown the spotlight on persistent allegations of police brutality in Kenya. Why does police misconduct continue to flourish despite repeated political promises of reform? How effective are the current oversight mechanism? The Kenyan parliament has since launched televised hearings into the incident. 2 police officers have been arrested in connection with Ojwang's death, but activists and human rights groups argue that isolated arrests are not enough to address systemic issues, like the case of Ojwang. Now, during a mass funeral attended by mourners and civil rights campaigners, calls for justice echoed across the community. The ceremony also coincided with Kenya's 7/7 Protest Day, a symbolic date commemorating past demonstrations against injustice. Meanwhile, protest-related violence has not been limited to Ojwang's case. During a rally last month in Nairobi, Boniface Kariuki, a 22-year-old street vendor, was shot at close range by police officers. His death added to the already mounting public frustration over the role of law enforcement in civil death. Member of Parliament Babu Owino, present at the funeral, condemned the ongoing trend of police violence, while statements from politicians often follow such incidents. What tangible policy changes have emerged from these declarations? We see that President William Ruto, when he took over office in 2022, he pledged to curb police excesses and eliminate extrajudicial killings. Yet, watchdog organizations report a grim record. At least 20 deaths in custody over the past 4 months and 160 cases of extrajudicial killings or enforced disappearances in the past year alone. These figures raise a present question: how much has truly changed under the current administration? As the country mourns, Ojwang and many are left asking whether his death will mark a turning point in Kenya's struggle against police impunity, or whether it will become yet another name on a growing list of unresolved injustice. Well, with this, we'll be heading it over to Ms. Onye, so we'll get more reports coming from the home front with our in-house analysts. Stay tuned.
In one family, we shall join the
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
In one family, we shall win the enemy. We are in one family, in one family, one family. I say one family, one family. I bet that we will have a family. Oh, we are the enemy. We are one family, one family, one family. One family, one family.
We are enough. So let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
In one family, we shall join the war. In one family, we shall join the war.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever.
Greetings, greetings and greetings. Greetings to the people of Ambazonia. I greet Ambazonians, so I greet always so from home front, especially the people of diaspora. I extend my greetings from home front and maybe Partake. This greeting is for beg everybody where to get that human feeling. When you know what you don't go throughout this time, with a lot of public to Cameroon, all these years that we have gone through, I just want to beg those who are there for diaspora, all over London, all over. I beg them with all my heart, with all everything, and even some of the people them for home front, well, when they don't join for the beg banner, I beg people for diaspora. We see the tunnel now open. The light where they at the end of the tunnel would be more than 80% closer. We will not go back. I want to say today, may everybody support this boy from Buoy. We will do all for support Buoy County, especially diaspora. I beg for now. I take God, Papa God beg for now. See with strong people like Eric Ate, Papa God don't call them. Mama Andele, Papa God don't call them. They don't go. We don't cry. We cry for home from. We don't cry, and we still cry. We still cry. We beg. Say me everybody of conscience. When we had we get that heart and sorry heart. We will support this picking them for Buoy County. our ASA. They do a marvelous job. Now with the home of Heaven, you need to remove from Baminda rather to Buoy County. You see what you're that picking along the way they go through. You get to see what they do. Something that they were in the bit difficult for you for taking a picture channel because if you want to pick and pick you, that see this people that see you will be trouble. I beg Vanna. Today when a day for draft for Buoy. Me all man come out with all you had. With all he had, a beg Vanna in the name of Eric Ate, where you don't rest in peace, and Mama Ndele. Maybe I use that hard for these 2 Trump people, they don't die. Well, support them for that. Where they don't die, draft on their behalf to support Buoy County. This will begin the ASA. They did it. I take God beg Vanna. No one will talk plenty. I beg. I beg. I beg. I beg. I beg will cry from her eye. I beg. Say, Mo, do something. When I do something serious for support the beginning for Buoy. But I will see what will happen for this year. Now, me at the top back for home front. When I support this Buoy beginning, the ASA. And they say we don't be closer to that library there for tunnel. With almost 80% and above, Mo no me will go back again. I will take that God name. This week, people that were all are Eric Ate and the Mama Ndele, and I don't know what the meaning of that I die. But I don't know, and a God called them too spiritually. Shemo will do all things, maybe not do all things. Support the ASA for Buoy, and I know Shemo will do them in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless Ambazonia. Thank you very much.
In one family, we shall join the warrior.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
One family, oh, we shall win the enemy, oh, we are. One family, one family, one family, I say one family, one family. I bet that we will one family, oh, we are the enemy, we are. One family, one family, one family, oh, we are. One family, one family.
We are enough. So let's draft, and draft. Our existence as a people depend on that.
One family, one family, we shall join the warrior. One family, one family, we shall join the warrior.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices.
One family, oh, we shall win the enemy, oh, we are. One family.
All right, thank you so much for that report there, Tabitha. Thank you so much for that. All right, Barrister Mbeseha, you can see that the US have gone far, just like Commander Elvis was trying to say. I mean, they are way ahead. I'm sure that when you heard all of that, especially for the taxing and all of that, you're sensing that this is the way in a few years to come where Ambazonia should be, because I mean that is in connection with what Commander Elvis, was trying to project earlier on when we started tonight's discussion.
Yeah, I think Commander Elvis was very, very right. That is where we expect to be. You see, when the world says American democracy is the best, it is not because they pass the best laws in the world. No. It is because they can be held accountable. Like that bill or those bills or not, they were voted into law, but some people were elected, officially elected. They have the mandate to do that. It is also the best democracy in the world because they are held accountable. You heard about the bill passing through Congress. Congress has only 2 years lifespan. If after 2 years the people don't think they did a good job, they will pull them away. We saw Mr. President signing that in glory. He's not an eternal guy. The last span of a president in America is 48 months. He had been here before, he was thrown out. He's come back. And so if at the end of his 48 months, people think that he's done a bad job, he will pull down. That is what Ambazonia stands for. A government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And that's how we do collectively the right thing. Listen to the people, do what they think is good, and they give us a mandate, or do something which we think is bad, and they take the mandate from us. That's what democracy is all about. That's the reason why we fight in taking it back to Amazonia and Cameroon. That's the reason why we fight. That's the reason why we take these opportunities to tell our own people and the world at large what we are fighting for, who we are, and who we are not. What we are fighting for, not what they tell us. And so we always see these opportunities and compare what is happening in the United States and around the world. That's why people, lovers of freedom, we are lovers of democracy, we are lovers of human rights. And until we get to Buoy, and I hope we'll get to Buoy, we'll be very, very exemplary. Our neighbors, that people should really learn from us. The elections have meaning, not what they have been doing all the time. We have people in Yaoundé who call themselves parliamentarians, senators, and ministers, who have no meaning at all in terms of elections, who have no meaning at all in terms of administration. And so we take this opportunity to analyze those things. Let those who do not understand us understand us. Again, we take this opportunity to say what we are and what we are not, to tell the people why you must draft and the reason why you draft and the goodness in the drafting. Because we have to be held accountable. We are out of the jungle. Over to you.
Yes, definitely, we must be held accountable. And talking about accountability, let's get straight into the reports, because I'm getting signal that we might have to be rounding up in terms of the drafting time is right here upon us. But we have to look at a few reports coming in from the home front. So talking about accountability, Barrister Mbeseha, a recent event has reflected a reoccurring pattern of child abandonment across Ambazonia. Over the week, in Boyer's Sand Pit neighborhood, a newborn baby was found abandoned by a roadside gutter. This was on Wednesday precisely, still bearing signs of recent birth. The infant is now receiving medical care. Such instances continue to labor the cruel reality across the nation. On the human cost the ongoing war has on the innocent population. The residents of Boyer's Sand Pit neighborhood were confronted with an appalling sight on Wednesday evening, July 2nd, 2025, where a newborn baby boy, still covered in fresh blood, with his umbilical cord attached, had been abandoned by a roadside gutter, found wrapped in a towel inside a market bag near the St. Teresa of the Child Jesus Catholic Church around 7 p.m. This infant, desperate cries alerted passerbys who eventually intervened, rescuing him from what could have been a fatal exposure, especially with the heavy rains that deluged the area the following day. The child was rushed to the Buoy Regional Hospital for urgent medical attention. Critics are pointing to this event as a direct indictment of the systematic failures plaguing Ambazonia. The ongoing war, a brutal, years-long struggle, has ravaged all zones of Ambazonia, displacing millions, destroying livelihood, and shattering social structures. These manufactured war, coupled with the colonial government's callous disregard for its citizens' welfare, fuels the desperate conditions leading to child abandonment. Newborns are regularly dumped in gutters, farms, markets, and garbage heaps across the nation. Data from La République du Cameroon's Military of Social Affairs, though outdated, also exposes a long-standing crisis of 1,029 abandoned children in 2008, climbing to 1,326 by 2010. While current official figures are suppressed, humanitarian workers confirm the problem has only escalated, driven not just by unwanted pregnancies, poverty, and stigma against single mothers, factors that are themselves exacerbated by the war and governmental inaction, but also by the collapse of familial and community support systems under duress, the colonial government's failure to provide adequate social safety nets, accessible healthcare, and support for vulnerable mothers directly contributes to these atrocities. Meanwhile, there is a unified demand among Ambazonians for fundamental change. This includes not just sexual education and contraception access, but a forceful insistence on the colonial governments fulfilling its obligation to protect the people they claim that are theirs, establish real support system, and create safe havens where desperate mothers can find assistance instead of being driven to abandon their children in such horrifying ways. Previously, when we talk about all of these abandoned children, 2 weeks ago, Barrister Mbeseha, if you remember, these were, major reports that flooded into the newsroom. Most of these reports had links to girls that were raped, girls that were forced into, of course, raped by soldiers, La République du Cameroon soldiers, and all of that. Several reports point out to girls who do not know how to take care of these babies based on their poverty level, based on the fact that they do not know how the next meal or where the next meal is coming from, or how they can even survive themselves, not to talk of the babies. I can remember one of such instances where the mother of one of such babies were abandoned. And when this girl was actually said she knows that when she abandons this baby along the roadside, a good Samaritan will pick the baby up. More like what we see in those fiction movies and read in the books. But funny enough, it's happening. In other climes, there are better structures for pregnant girls and all of that. But here in Ambazonia, this is the case. This is just about the third of this case we are handling this week. It's pathetic because school is not even an option due to all of these challenges we are facing. Barrister Fru, how shocked are you?
I am very shocked, but the good thing is that that baby is alive. The mother kept the baby where somebody would see it. We thank God for that. That's a precious Ambazonian that would have gone unnoticed. But now he is in the hands of the medical people. Having said that, the collapse of the economy of the southern Cameroons started a long time ago, by 1972, when La République du Cameroon dismantled all our economic live wires. The Cameroon Bank was taken and destroyed. The produce marketing board was taken and destroyed. Even the farmers' cooperative was taken and destroyed. The seaports were destroyed. The airports were destroyed. They did everything to destroy whatever was responsible for our economic live wire. They have destroyed CDC. They have destroyed palm oil. They have destroyed everything that concerns the southern Cameroon, Ambazonia. Ambazonia, after 1972, did not have an economy of its own. It was La Republique's economy. Ambazonia had no economy. All what is happening is La Republique has collapsed. Its economy has collapsed due to a senseless war that they declared on the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. And we have been fighting this war for 8 years. Can you imagine a collapsed economy in war for 8 years? How do you expect these young children to live? Some go and get unwanted pregnancies. They don't know what is going to happen with the pregnancy. The issue of abandonment of children did not start today. It started long ago when La Republique collapsed our economy. And it is not only a phenomenon for Ambazonia, it's a phenomenon for all of La Republique du Cameroon. And all we are praying and fighting and talking about, drafting and doing all what we can do to free our homeland so that we can organize our economy and bring back the life that our children deserve, our grandchildren deserve. That is where we are. It is pathetic. It is annoying because all this is the responsibility of La Republique of Cameroon because they collapsed our economy and unleashed a war on us, and we have no way of survival. I don't know whether morally I can blame that child who abandoned the child, because I call her a child because she found herself in a situation where she cannot bring up a child. She did not commit murder. She came and abandoned it somewhere near to the Catholic Church where somebody will see it. And I am hoping that with all the homeless children's homes around Ambazonia, they will take care of this young Ambazonian to grow and become a responsible Ambazonia. There is nothing, it is untenable. It is difficult for Ambazonian citizens to have 1 meal a day since La Republique du Cameroon did what they did to us in 2017 by declaring this senseless war. They had collapsed our economy and declared the war, and it made we had no economy of our own. So the economy of Ambazonia is the economy of La Republique du Cameroon. And they should take responsibility, accountability for all what is happening to our people. They have murdered our people. They have murdered more than 70,000. They have burned our villages. They have done their worst on our people. And now our children are the collateral damages of this war and the collapsed economy of La Republique du Cameroon. They have to take responsibility. They have done what look, La Republique du Cameroon take its economy from our territory. All the natural resources that La Republique du Cameroon is relying on now to be stealing and banking abroad is the oil and gas in our territory and other minerals that they are exploiting because they are fighting this war, and we don't have the means to stop them from exploiting the natural resources that are in our territory. The only arm we have is civil disobedience, ghost towns every Monday. And that will continue until La Republic is on its knees. And this October, I'll see how they will survive this October. I'm not a prophet, but I'm watching to see how La Republic will survive this coming October. Because we got to be free by October. We must do everything to get out of this quagmire by October. And I know, and God willing, La Republic cannot survive the month of October 2025. And this economy that our children are suffering, we have a moral duty to immediately embark on rebuilding the economy to allow our children go to school normally and get married and have children normally, and the children are brought up instead of allowing them. Soldiers are raping them. All kinds of people are raping them and taking no responsibility. That this child that delivered this child may not have had any means of bringing up the child. She had no other choice but to keep it where some other people would take. That is my take.
Would come back. This is just one of the so many issues we are going to handle today. So just hold your emotions there. Would come back. Barrister Mbeseha. Barrister Fru thinks that it's all about the emotional, I beg your pardon, the economic, downside of Ambazonia. That is why all of this is happening. But this is the third report we are seeing this with. Do you think that the parents in any way can be blamed for this, or you would want to go with the route of Barrister Fru?
Well, thank you. I'm not sure that it is all about the economy. See, there's a lot into that story. Not the economy. It shows the social failure of the whole system. Why? Because that pregnancy, we don't know who it is that was pregnant with the baby. Boy, aged, full-grown woman or an underage girl. Either way, it was unwanted pregnancy. That's why the child is thrown away. Unwanted, why? Because someone raped you. That is possible. You just went out for enjoyment with a rare adult and got pregnant. That is possible. But the bottom line is, he did not want that child. That's why the child is dumped there. Should this ever be the case? No. Because in Ambazonia and in Cameroon in particular, whereas a rapist, if I rape you, I can be punished. I can go to jail. If I could sleep with that underage girl, I can be punished. I can go to jail. There's no sentence for the victim, the woman who is raped. There's no punishment for the underage girl who gets pregnant. And so you have this protection already. All what you need is education. And this education has failed. It has failed woefully because the government has not provided what it needs. Where that child was dumped is very, very telling. Dumped near a church. Because the person who did it knew that somebody would pass there and pick the child. Why the church? Because even in Ambazonia, the church ran orphanages. They don't need many. If there's an orphanage, for example, in Kumbo, that child from Buoy will end up there and will be given the best treatment. And so that is a social structure provided in terms of Ambazonia, already there. That should not frighten you. But above all, not everybody goes to church. Our girls and our women and whoever should be educated about these things. I don't imagine that mother who gave birth to that child, where she was just 10 years old, 12 years old, or she was 50 or 60. She didn't want the pregnancy. But we all come from social structures. We all come from African families. If she did not need that child, an aunt of hers, an uncle, a niece would have carefully brought up the child. So this should be rolled out of dumping children, abandoning them at their own fate. Yeah, we press her for leaving the child there. But that was not the least, that was the least secure place where you could leave a newborn child. And so it's a total failure of the system. If the system does not want to criminalize all those things, or even if it does, it is the responsibility of the children. No matter what laws you put there, there will be unwanted pregnancies, and they are all over the world. No matter what laws you put there, underage children will get sex and get pregnant. And so the system must provide for them. Provide for those circumstances when they come up. And so if you don't provide, as it is not provided in Cameroon, we have said, for example, the story is so much even in the so-called people of Cameroon. Why? Because I think they have the Ministry of Women and whatever affairs they have over there. What are these ministries doing? And so we should try to educate our own children, our own women, because only women get pregnant. So if you find yourself in that circumstance, don't be scared. Don't try to take the life of a child. Because she was lucky to have given birth to a child. She could have died in labor. Because what she went through, perhaps she was not even following the prenatal care. And so we need education. Women in particular, especially in child abandonment. Grow up with your parents. Grow up in a family where such things, though not honored, you will not be exposed. You are not going to be expelled from the family circle just because you give birth to a child. At least a mother will be in that family who will take care of that child. At the very least, if they cannot do it, we still have church organizations that have orphanages that will take care of those structures. Why we wait? Because orphanages operate in West Cameroon, they were there, and they were subsidized by the state because they are doing a good job. If the government cannot run an orphanage, a church, be it a Catholic church, a Protestant church, only organized church can do it. And so we should stop this idea of abandoning our own children. Because behind every adult, behind every president, behind every most powerful man in the world, lies the beginning through childhood. We don't know what that baby could have become or will become. The child is still alive. So when you throw away that child, you might be throwing away the future president. You may throw away the future best doctor, the future professor that you will find in your life. And so that should be discouraged. It should not be allowed to happen. The system has failed, and given the opportunity, we will make amends. We will not forget that those circumstances will always arise. It is the responsibility of government, I've said, to make provisions for that. Because no law will prevent children from getting pregnant. They will reduce the number. We cannot eliminate it. We cannot reduce the number. And so our parents who have these children should educate their children. If you get into this trouble, tell your mother, tell your foster mother, tell your daddy, tell somebody in the family who will be taken care of. And so that is what I can contribute for that. For lack of time, I let go.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. Over the week, there was also areas where you thought that the economy failed. Commander Elvis, so Barrister Fru thinks that the economy has failed these young girls. Barrister Mbeseha thinks that is the social angle that has failed. Merging all of this together, what would your point and idea or opinion be about this particular case?
Oh, thank you very much, Onye. And I really do appreciate the contributions of Barrister Mbeseha and Fru. I totally agree with the barristers on that point, because at this point we are at war, and it is total chaos. Of course, it is part of our war strategy to make sure that the enemy does not sustain any economic activities that would continue to generate wealth for them, while they use that same wealth to punish our people. Right? For the past 8 years, none of those councils, as you know, councils are responsible for taxation, is functioning. There is those La Republic governors that have been sent there have been sent with specific missions to extort. And even the tax that were collected was not used to develop the areas and the population. Our people are desperately under great economic stress. We are fighting this because we understand that system has to be uprooted. And to uproot that system, there is going to be a lot of tension. There's going to be a lot of inconvenience for some people that already found comfort in these establishments. However, we would have to uproot that taproot and rebuild the structure, just like I mentioned previously, for which Mbeseha supported, the structure like the one you find in the United States of America, where we have a democratic country that has freedoms of liberty, that has laws debated in parliament to be implemented, and ideas that are innovative. We would not be following a system that continues to, send extortionists in the name of colonial administrators into our territory. Again, the reason I started with that kind of similarity between the Ambazonians and the Americans was simply because yesterday was a great occasion to celebrate the independence of a great nation. And that came alongside all those freedoms. This structure that we now have in place with La Republique is one that we have to entangle ourselves from. And that is one of the freedoms that we are fighting for. It is actually worth dying for. And for the service and sacrifice of our great men and heroes that have gone before us, we cannot relent. We need to make sure that we fight hard and we build while fighting to dismantle those crooked institutions, that we also build those strong institutions that our forefathers have also enshrined in us. The likes of Mr. Eric Ate, may his soul rest in peace. The likes of my Endele. These are some of our great heroes now that had their vision, that planted the seed. But it is up to us now to continue to water that seed and never let it die. Believe in their dreams, believe in their aspirations, fight hard to make sure that all these taproots that La Republique has planted in us are completely uprooted. Thank you again, Onye, for that question, and I'll yield back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Commander Elvis. And so this is not, when we talk about emotional stories like this is just one or half compared to all of the other pain and struggles that Ambazonians have to go through. So within the week, we gave a report about two sisters who lost their lives on the road. You already know why. Because the roads are bad. Two sisters, Fru Mercy and Sandra, tragically killed in a motorbike accident in Limbe on the 29th of June, were later arrested yesterday in their hometown of Mbengui. Their deaths, along with that of the motorbike rider, still has the community in shock. Fru Mercy, the eldest of the sister, was a prominent humanitarian advocate. Many have come out to proclaim how greatly she will be missed. Investigations continue in Cameroon's Atlantic zone following a fatal road accident that claimed 3 lives in Ngame near Limbe on Sunday, June 29th. Amongst the deceased were 2 sisters, Fru Mercy, who was 28 years, and her younger sister, Sandra, who was 20, both originally from Mbengui in the Midland zone. According to reports, the motorbike rider, identified as a 20-year-old man, also succumbed to his injuries shortly after being transported to a nearby hospital. The mortal remains of the sisters were transported from the Limbe Malwan mortuary on the 2nd of July and arrived in Bangui for burial at the family compound yesterday, July 3rd. Hundreds gathered to bid them a painful farewell. The news of their sudden deaths has deeply affected relatives, friends, and colleagues. Mercy, the elder sister, is being remembered as a courageous and passionate advocate for women empowerment. She was an active member of a group called Rebuild Africa, a Buoy-based non-governmental organization dedicated to supporting single mothers and empowering women. She was described as more than just a team member by her colleagues. She was a light, according to a colleague, a fighter, and a passionate advocate for change. Her dedication to empowering young girls and women through the program left a powerful mark on every side that she has touched. And so the organization highlighted her tireless work to make every girl feel seen, heard, and capable, noting that her compassion, strength, and creativity shaped the soul of the work, and her absence right now will leave an irreplaceable void. According to report as well, Nsoh was also pursuing her aspirations in the arts, studying to become an actor at the Bamenda Film School, which also paid tribute to her loving and team spirit. Preliminary reports from the accident scene indicates a motorbike carrying the 3 victims was struck by a car. Information suggests the driver of the car, identified as Wayne Jr., is the son of a prominent Limbe businessman and footballer entrepreneur Valentine Nkwe, who presides over Victoria United FC. Sources also suggest the driver may have been under the influence of alcohol at the time of the incident, having reportedly been a nightclub in the town prior to the collision. Authorities have yet to release official details regarding their accident or any ongoing investigation. Well, further updates also highlights the fact that all of this happened due to the poor road networks. This is highly sad because when you link this first story to the second story, I mean, people like Mercy, if she were to be alive, would have been able to take care of the single mothers or single girls who are already losing their trace or losing a footprint to life. But this is the situation that Ambazonians find themselves in. The people who are knowledgeable enough to help those who are ignorant about a few things are also losing their lives based on a few issues that can be taken care of if only people can come to the negotiation table. Barrister Mbeseha, we started this report together on Monday when we first got this news, and you saw and understood that it was the road networks that caused this. But linking this also, you see that this situation is so bad to the point that the people who are supposed to be the helpmates, let me use that word at this point, to those who have not yet been there, are also losing their lives. So who else is Shoko when those that have it are not there?
Well, I said it last meeting when we were sitting here, and I'll add it here now. Whatever is the reason, whether the guy was drunk or whatever, there's no reason why people should die like that. Those of us who live out of the country, especially in the United States, there's something called a DUI, driving under influence. Right here, it means they know that people will drink and get drunk. They know that people will be alcoholic and drive. The primary responsibility of the state is to be sure that even those people who are driving when they are drunk are safe for themselves and they are safe about the people they drive with. And so if the government has not taken these steps, I said last time, if you saw that accident, if you showed the pictures, it was a head-on collision. The bonnet of the car was completely shattered. Why? Because the road is so narrow. So narrow that they could not even, they are looking for passage. In their drunkenness, or whatever state they were, they will hit each other. They are looking for passage, and they are driving at speed that is above speed limit, if there's no speed limit in Limbe. They go unpunished. Who is supposed to check all this? It is the state. You put speed limit, you control it, you punish violators. You put laws against driving under influence. You enforce it, you punish offenders. If this is not done, expect these things to occur and anybody can be victim. No matter how rich your parents are or how poor they are, the son, as you're told right now, we're telling us, the son of a prominent man, is a rich man, Limbe. But God did not spare him because his father is rich. He died. And along with him, others. Again, why we should take care of all these things? The state must be reminded that that is what is meant by a government. A government that abandons those basic things. Safety on the road. The safety of even drunken people. It's a fair government. These children, they are dead or in their prime, they should not have died. What are we waiting for? Waiting for a report? What will the report do? Will it bring them to life? Nothing. And so I know Limbe very, very well. The roads are so narrow, and I said here, bad roads should never have been the issue of Limbe. Because Limbe is what they call the OPEC city, where they refine oil. They refine, the byproducts are thrown into the ocean for nothing. Whereas Paul Biya himself had come to Buoy and told us publicly, I was there, that he will use those things to make fixing roads. The Limbe, right? This is the most terrible. And so, me, the primary responsibility lies with the government, whose duty is to provide the infrastructure, whose duty it is to punish the offenders, if they're not doing that, whose duty to ensure that both the and the people caused the death are safe. Nobody wanted to die. Again, how do these two children find themselves on motorbike? I had said it here before. Motorbike is not never considered that thing to be for public transport. We're meant to be for personal use. They have reduced something that the only means of transport you can find in a town like that is to use a motorbike. 3-4 of you sitting on that thing, it by itself is a risk, by itself is against the law, because it's meant to carry one person and no more than two, the driver and somebody behind. But now, 2 of them hanging on that thing, by itself is a law. It's against the law, and nobody is enforcing it. What do you expect of criminals who go unchecked? You expect the crime to become the normal, which is what should not occur in Ambazonia, which is why we fight to stop this nonsense and rebuild our lives. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Barrister Fru. It's so worrying that in the year 2025, we're talking about poor road networks and how many people we keep counting loss. You can imagine such a promising young girl just in her early 20s and her younger sister just stepped into the 20s. How can this family bear the pain and loss of 2 beautiful, elegant girls? Is it that the crime the parents would have committed is to come from Ambazonia? This is very sad. How much more will Ambazonians cry for poor road networks? How much more? Barrister Fru, I'm asking.
Well, Onye, I will link the 2 cases as a result of the economic abandonment of Ambazonia and the war. In where I come from, there's no unwanted child, because when a girl gets pregnant in a family, that family takes care of her till she delivers that child and the child is taken care of. That is the African culture. That is from where I come from. Whether there are social services or there are no social services is not the question. The question is, are those parents now capable of sustaining the economic life wire of the family, including an unborn child? Are those parents in Bengui? Do they deserve to receive the cups of their children because of the bad roads in all of Ambazonia, including Limbe? Do you know, Onye, that even the small generation of what CDC generates, and in a few years back, Sonora, all the taxes are paid in Douala, not in Limbe. There is no allocation, economic allocation for FACO from the central government because they don't have the money. They have collapsed. And I will argue that all the services, all what we call building of roads or social services to take care of unwanted parency or take care of not allowing this type of accident to occur leads to one thing, that the center can no longer hold. The war, I'm not only talking about the economy, the war that was declared on us, plus the economy that had been abandoned before the war, coming together has collapsed every economic live wire in Ambazonia and in La Republic of Cameroon, because Ambazonia had no economy of its own since 1972. After 1972, they took away all our economic live wire. So we have nothing. We are a product of the failed economy of La Republique du Cameroon, and we are suffering the consequences. Bad roads, because La Republique has not built any road in Limbe in the last 10, 20 years, as far as I know. Travel from Douala to Limbe and see the condition of the road. Why? I mean, the accident is a consequence of bad road, and also the fact that La Republique picks amongst us their so-called party militants or sympathizers and enrich them so that they have no voice. And therefore their children ride cars, and the rest of us, the rest of our children are on foot, and therefore they have to take Okada, and they come and hit the Okada and kill two prosperous young girls from Bangui. We cannot extricate ourselves. Let's not pretend that the economy is removed from all what we are talking about. We are talking about the live wire of every nation or every city or every county or every division, whatever. It does not exist in Ambazonia, from Victoria to Nkambe. We are surviving because our parents are farmers by nature. But farming alone will not take care of you. Look at the statistics. Unemployment in the whole of Ambazonia is more than 80%. I would argue that that little girl, or that woman who had that child and abandoned the child, it is because she had no means of bringing that child to the world. And her parents or whatever, husband or whoever, had no money to let her go through the social system and deliver that child, and they can take care of it. The same thing with those two young girls. They left their homes. They are struggling to survive. They left their homes and took Okada. Two of them on one Okada. Is that normal? In any circumstances, is it normal? But they were killed because of the bad road, and because a rich man's child was drunk. And you will know that their death will go nowhere, because that car may not have proper insurance. That Okada may not have proper insurance. The economy has collapsed. Only the rich are living well, and the whole population is in quagmire. And why are we only talking about the social fabric? The social fabric of our people is intact. Our tradition is intact. A child is pregnant in my family, everybody rallies around to help. But when the economy collapses and everybody is suffering, what do you expect the child to do with the child? She had to leave it somewhere where somebody will take it. I am not justifying it, but I'm looking at it squarely. What are you going to do to that little girl? Or the woman who abandoned the child? Put her in prison? Is the prison system any better with a poor economy? Are the prisoners eating? I mean, let's face it, until we finish this war and rebuild our nation, we cannot blame it on our social fabric. No. The social services that were there before 1972 were run by West Cameroon, but they are no longer in existence. because they took away everything and abandoned us. That is my case. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Commander Elvis, you see that when we talk about such issues, you also get very emotional because you're coming and you stay in a climate where things are working and things are working very fast. Human life is as important as it should be. But yet, this is what is happening in your country. This is what is happening, where the lives of people does not matter to the people who are supposed to protect it. And so, do you think that, in a way, Ambazonians in America will appreciate the independence of America in what it has happened? Do you think that they are hoping to, benefit in ways that would also benefit Ambazonians?
Yeah, Onye, thank you. Thank you for that great question. And I would like to pivot that response, especially to our fellow Ambazonians that are in the United States of America. Yesterday, like I started, marked the 249th celebration of the independence of America. So July 4th, again, 1776, was when the Americans, the U.S., separated from Great Britain. But to tell this story to especially people that would resonate with the story, if you don't mind, I would just take a moment to explain the story of the American Star Spangled Banner. That is the story that I think resonates with each and every Ambazonian. And I would like for the Ambazonians to just give me a moment to let this sink in. All right. So let me tell the story of the Star Spangled Banner in this way. So there was a young lawyer by the name of Francis Scott Key, who lived in the great state of Baltimore in Maryland in the 1800s. That was a time when the U.S. was involved in so many vicious wars with the Great Britain. After that Revolutionary War, the Great Britain suffered a series of humiliating defeats at the hands of the United States. They were practically in retreat, defending themselves all along through that time. However, in 1814, that is when, that defensive actually kind of stopped. In August, specifically of 1814, they were determined to stop all those embarrassments. And again, the British saw an opportunity to go on the offensive and take on the American fighters that had been defending their land with great pride. So they started by capturing Washington, D.C., which was the nation's capital, chasing away the president of America at that time, Madison, and his wife from the city of Washington, and burning down so many government buildings. The British then headed to the next state, which was the state of Baltimore. That was the nation's third most popular city that had a fort. That fort is specifically called Fort McKinney. So along the way, the British were accumulating a whole lot of prisoners as they were fighting to capture these areas. Again, keep in mind that Fort McKinney was one of the greatest military installations that if they had toppled it, it would have been a great charm to the Americans, given that they had just lost the capital. So one of such prisoners that was actually in that Fort McKinney was a prisoner by name of Dr. Williams, Dr. William Beans. So they were trying to seek his release. So many of his friends and well-wishers who were actually, I would say, were soldiers as well, embarked on a mission to try to convince those Americans or the British to seek for their release. So the British ship then, was driving there with the likes of that lawyer, Francis Scott Key, who was the lawyer that had been recruited to secure the release of this great statesman. However, as they embarked on that mission after weeks of discussion, in which the British had actually allowed the Dr. Willis to go free, they then said, but for any prisoner to come out of, or anybody to come out of Fort McKinley, they had to bombard that place for the next week. And if they did not succeed, or if they succeeded, any prisoner then could come out of there, right? So the bad news was that the British decided to first attack Fort McKinley and only release any prisoners after only the fort had been completely destroyed. So it was strategically located based on the fact that there were thousands of American fighters, or I'll say warriors, that were defending that city, that stood at the edge of that peninsula guarding Baltimore. And the British knew that they had to defeat Fort McKinley, which would serve as another demoralizing event for the Americans. Now, so the British planned to use a lot of superior firepower, which was what they had. They were planning to annihilate Fort McKinley, and that was very critical in the history of America, which I want us to relate that to the situation in Buoy today. So even though the U.S. had become a sovereign nation way back in the 1776, the U.S. was still fighting for her total independence from the British, of course, due to her interference in their internal affairs and in the trade of other freedoms. So on the fateful night of September 13th, 1884, as morning dawned and as haze hung over the ocean, the British war fleet was unleashed, and there was sounds of bombs everywhere, pounding Fort McKinley for 5, 10, up till 24 hours that they were pounding for McKinley. As long as the lawyer who was going to seek the release stood at a distance, and he could identify the white, blue, and red flags still waving from that fort, he knew that the men inside the fort were not giving up. Some prisoners were there. He knew that they were still alive. Some prisoners were also asking, is the flag still there? This flag was a very big flag. And this flag stood for the United States of America. That was the flag that symbolized the freedom that the U.S. cherished. That was the flag that stood for the men and the women that died to give the U.S. her independence. And after 24 hours of constant bombardment, there was silence as morning dawned on September 14th. When the heavy mist and the smoke from the gunfire had lifted, there standing proud, flying high above the rampart, blowing back and forth, the wind was that 30-foot by 42-foot American flag. That flag was so long that the British did not have any issues even seeing it from afar. The damage to that fort was very minimal. That fort had about 1,000 soldiers, and only 4 were killed by the British bombardments. So the U.S. did not yield, and the British eventually withdrew from Baltimore, from her harbors, because they deemed the battle too expensive, too costly for them, and the tides of the war quickly changed. So it was upon the release of the prisoners that the lawyer, Francis Scott Key, made his way back to Baltimore after what he had witnessed, the dramatic events that had unfolded, because he stood watching how the fort was being bombarded. And that young lawyer was inspired then to pen the words, which I would read very clearly for all Ambazonians to listen. And they goes thus: "Oh, say Can you see the dawn's early lights? What so proudly held at the twilight's last glaring? Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, or the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glared, the bombs bursting in the air, gave proof through the night that the flag was still there. Oh, say those that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave. So, thus, it is my prayer, and it's our prayer as Ambazonians, that whenever we see our flag, which represents Ambazonia, with similar independence wars or stories, that we also never ever forget to honor our heroes, just like that of the U.S., that we would stand in reverence for their sacrifices, for those events that they have fought, for those that have laid down their lives for our independence. That we shall never give up, and that their sacrifices shall never go in vain. Let us use this opportunity, looking at Buoy as one of those bastions, those last battles that we have to fight. Let us honor the courage of our great men and women who have fought to keep our flag waving. Let us always give honor to those willing to pay the ultimate sacrifice for our great nation, the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Thank you, Onye. And over to you.
All right, thank you so much for that insightful one. I'm sure that this would definitely, energize Ambazonians to, do the needful this night. But before we wrap up tonight's discussion, this week there was something that we also noticed on Undaunted. Because we're talking about Ambazonia this week, we just have to talk about it. Elections are around the corner, right? And we see the moves. This week we see moves into Bamenda, the Prime Minister, John Nsoh, trying to commission road projects. The other time he was promising them a stadium. But, for as funny as it can be, Ambazonians didn't even rejoice at that. They were wondering how a stadium would be built in Ambazonia. But over the week, he promised them road. But that's not all. There is this editorial that we came across, and we felt that we could analyze it and bring it into tonight's conversation. Now, the Independentist News has called on Ambazonians to permanently withdraw from all political and electoral processes within the Republic of Cameroons, branding the ongoing so-called peace initiatives and elections. It has come again, election, as a calculated trap designed to suppress and erase the Southern Cameroon's identity. The editorial was titled The Peace Trap: Why Ambazonians Must Reject All Elections and Exist La Republique de Cameroon Forever. The editorial argues that decades of failed negotiations and broken promises, highlighted from the Swiss-led mediation to Canada's short-lived attempt at dialogue, have revealed a hard truth. The Cameroonian state under President Paul Biya was never interested in peace, has never been interested in peace anyways. So this piece draws on the work of political analyst Dr. Martin Mungwer, who likens Biya's 1987 ideological text, Communal Liberalism, to Nien-Cav, accusing it of providing a blueprint for an authoritarian rule, centralization of power, and the dismantling of the quote Anglophone politics in this case. With local and national elections approaching in on the Cameroons, this editorial delivers a decisive message, which is voting is not resistance, but complicity. It argues that participation in the Cameroonian electoral system merely lends legitimacy to a regime built on denomination, and above all, denial. Instead, the peace calls for total disengagement, urging Ambazonians to declare and defend full sovereignty, reject all administrative ties to Yaoundé, and educate citizens about their right to self-determination under international law. The editorial ends on a defiant note, says Ambazonians cannot vote away their chains. They must become the recognition. I'll take that again. Ambazonians cannot vote away the chains. They must become the recognition. The publication has reignited debate within the movement, galvanizing pro-independence supporters while raising concerns among moderates and international observers about the future of peace and its efforts in Ambazonia. Oh well. With the foundation of this report that I gave earlier on, you would understand that the force into which they're seeking for Ambazonians' love, unity, peace is even amazing. It's amazingly funny, because at the end of the day, you would begin to wonder, you do not care about these people. Votes do not count. Why are you trying to make peace and show some love that is not genuine and real at this end? But that's on the other side. On the flip side, the leadership of President Sakura said there is no election. Ambazonians do not need to go out. Don't bother yourself. But here we are having it on the left side and on the right side. This is another night when we need the authorities who have been here before, who have seen it all, who have read far and wide, to educate Ambazonians again on the need to listen and observe and follow what their Sako-led presidency is sticking to when it comes to election, regardless of all of these ephemerals that may look enticing that are coming in. Barrister Fru, let's start with you.
Thank you, Onye. The President of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia and the government of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia has made a pronouncement, and there is a law. No elections in the territory of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. No election in the territory of the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, so to speak. So what are we seeing? Why we are working to make sure that there will be no elections in our territory? We have amongst us Ambazonians enemies of freedom. They are the ones organizing some villages, trying to get electorates from some villages so that they can vote for La République du Cameroon elections in the territory of the Southern Cameroon. During the American War of Independence, I don't know whether they had traitors like we do. Look, the American experience is so nice, but comparing it to the primitive African thinking that is represented by La République du Cameroon, coming to the extent of buying our people to do what they are doing against their freedom, makes this revolution one of the most difficult to manage. A revolution remains a revolution. We will do whatever it takes to make sure that elections do not take place in the territory of Ambazonia. These La République elections. Because if we do, the independentists has said it. If we vote, it's an indication that we are not ready for freedom. It will give La République du Cameroon a leeway to say they are part of us. They only wait for elections to come to our territory. Why do we need them? Who is bringing them? Our own people. John Gote was in Bamenda. John Gote is a southern Cameroon, is an Ambazonia. He was in Bamenda, guarded by battalions of military as he entered Bamenda. He was there making pronouncements. Oh, ghost towns are killing the economy of the Northwest and the Southwest. As if the Northwest and the Southwest has an economy other than La Republic economy. I am saying, if La Republic comes out with 1 or 2 votes in the territory of Ambazonia, it is our people who have made it possible for them. Because we saw a video, Onye, where in Andek, Ambazonians were registering Ambazonians to vote for a La Republic election. And they think they can get away with it. It will not happen. It will not happen because the ASA saw that video and they will react. We do not want anybody to go out campaigning or registering or empowering people to register or voting in October 2025 in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. If it happens, we will know that some of the enemies went through the net and made sure that they had 1 or 2 votes here and there. That will not represent the vote from Ambazonia. They have never, since the revolution started in 2017 till today, La Republic has not had any credible, any kind of election in the territory of the southern Cameroons and Ambazonia. So we are saying that that election will not take place in Ambazonia, and that is a law, and anybody who attends will be tried for treason when the time comes. If we don't get you now, we'll get you when we are in power in Ambazonia. When our sovereignty is restored and our people take over their own destiny, and they will try you for treason for what you did to our people. I am passing this message to our people on the ground. Forget the so-called elites that are sitting in Yaoundé and eating fat. Some of the traditional rulers have escaped from Ambazonia and they are living in Yaoundé, and they are teleguiding what is happening in their villages. We will put a stop to that, and if we don't, we will get you when the time comes. There will be no election. There's no election of La Republic in another country called the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. Let it be known by everybody, by those blacklegs who are citizens of Ambazonia, who think that they will look. When La Republic collapses, don't come saying, "Oh, we were wrong. Oh, forgive us." Don't come apologizing, because the law will take its course. You betrayed us when we needed you. You betrayed the whole country when the citizens needed you, because you were eating fat somewhere. You stay there and eat fat and remain their citizen. Don't come to us, because that day will be a day of reckoning. Thank you very much.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Barrister Fru. Barrister Mbeseha, we started with this report from the week, but from the previous week, Barrister Fru mentioned that video from Andek. That was the previous week. And you remember there was a communique Dr. Martin Mungwa brought, not even knowing that this week there will be more moves as regards to the election, just as if you saw it ahead of time. And Barrister, you said Ambazonians should brace of more moves will be made, and here we are today. We are seeing more moves. Within the week, we saw move. We discussed the Dion Ngozi move, and today we are seeing the independents seeing more and speaking out. Barrister Mbeseha, how much more? You in particular, at this point, I'm asking this to you. How much more would you speak for Ambazonians to understand? Because, you think that they have seen it, or you think that they are feeling the brunt, you think that they are feeling the pain. But somehow, at the back, the other time we saw the names of those who are conniving to get others registered. We saw videos as well. So it seems like others are not hearing, or probably they are hearing, but they don't understand. So how much more, how else can you say that there won't be any elections in Ambazonians, and Ambazonians are not supposed to support this move? How else can you say it for them to understand?
Well, it looks like an uphill task to get Ambazonians understand when we who ought to understand better have refused to understand anything. That topic you put there, the heading, election, a peace trap, was put out there in response to another piece put out by my learned colleague and friend, Nico Hale Ntumfo. Ndwala is a practicing lawyer, and Ndwala is my classmate. We graduated the same year, 82, in which Ntumfo was calling on Ambazonians to vote, some ceasefire and all this sort of stuff. And so this thing that this analyst put out there fell on all fours. And what Hale said seemed to give the impression that, in spite of the education that all of us have, so those mighty guns don't understand what it is all about. Because I did not expect this to come from a lawyer. What elections are coming up soon are presidential elections. Who are the primary candidates? The favored candidate in the election, if everything were to be when equal, is Kamto. This crisis has been going on for long, and someone asked Kamto publicly, I think it was in Canada, what do you think about this Anglophone rebellion? Their resistance. What will you do? What was Kamto's reply? Kamto's reply was, Cameroon has already made its history. That's the future president of Cameroon come next month, 3 months to come. What history has Cameroon made? They have assimilated Anglophones, they call it. And so it's not prepared to revisit it. And then we are being called to go vote in those elections, to submit to Kamto, to be adequately, to be properly assimilated and killed. Not being called by activists in the street, being called by renowned lawyers, big people who live in Douala, well-educated people. Then you ask yourself, where are we coming from? Why are we so uneducated ourselves? I would rather expand on that. Not just a peace trap. There's more to it that will make people understand. I would rather add, if you see anything, any promise made by any Francophone leader, escape from it is a trap. They are just lying. They're just deceiving you. And the history is long. And I can just quote a few instances to justify what I'm saying. In 1959, Ahijah went to the United Nations and promised that if we join them, it will be a state with all autonomy around it. It will be a federation. Just 2 months, 6 months after that, Resolution 1608 came. The very Ahijah government voted against it. Notwithstanding all the promises they made to the United Nations and to Fansha, they voted against it. And that was the government. The very Ahijah are not Francophone, who told us that will be in a federation, promised the United Nations, promised Fansha and others. After voting against Resolution 1608, what did they do? He went forward to invite Frontier to bring a delegation to Fumban, what they call today the Fumban Conference, Constitutional Conference. Whereas there was no Constitutional Conference in Fumban. They were just lying. They invited Frontier and his 50-man delegation to Fumban. And while they were in Fumban, they never even met once to discuss the Constitution. Not even once. They met at the opening session, went and drank, came back, met at the closing session. In between, they forced Frontier and his delegation into a room to make proposals, not agreements, and give it to them. Had Frontier known, they would not even have gone there. We see them talk, escape from them. But it did not even end there. Despite of not being part of that thing, they went forward and produced a federal constitution without consulting the Frontier, without consulting with the United Nations that they were supposed to be part of it. And they framed it a federal constitution 1st September 1961, which federal constitution was everything but federal. There was nothing federal in the federal constitution. Absolutely nothing. It was just a lie. Why? Because in that federal constitution, what power did it provide for the states, the federated states? Zero power. Absolutely zero power. They took all the powers and then went to Article 4 and 5 and 6. They took all the powers of the state. And what did they give to Southern Cameroon as their own authority? Article 38 said, anything which you have not mentioned, you can take it. Is that a federation? That was Yaoundé. Had Frontier known, they would have run away from that thing. It's a peace trap. They didn't even end there. In that very thing they call federal constitution, they stated that Frontier's government will be appointed by Ahijo, and his ministers will be dismissed by him. Article 89. In that very federal constitution, they stated that Article 47, the federal character of this territory will not be violated. But they trapped another trap. They put Article 2.1. The president can call a referendum, which he did in 1972 to kill the revolution. And so these are documented things that no Ambazonian intellectual, nobody analyst should see these people as an honest group of people. They are peace traps. And as it is properly elucidated there, they invited so-called Ambazonians to Canada for peace talks. We saw Ambazonians parading there, we saw their faces. We saw Professor Kassan Yangwe and others, the Capodanians. But we never saw the face of any Cameroonian delegation there, not one. What was it? It was a trap to make them submit themselves. They called their Grand National Dialogue, trapped Agombala, trapped Cardinal Tumi, made them the chairperson of the decentralization, but they outlawed the form of state being discussed. They were bound to accept what they said. That's pure trapping of their own opponents. And so it's a peace trap. And then they told us, that article says there, say, election is a submission, not resistance. In other words, we have to resist this trapping. We have to resist what has gone, that we've gone through since 1961, rather than submit to what they wish. And I would go to that word submission, not resistance, and deal with it concerning elections. I've said here many times before, we have all people represented in Yaoundé, 35 parliamentarians, 20 senators, and so on and so forth. What are they doing? What are they doing? They were supposed to have been elected. Have they raised this issue of what they call Anglophone problem within their house of elected people? Nothing. Nothing. Rather, when one bold person stood up to talk, I'm talking about Joseph Wilbur, They said it will never be discussed here. They signed an arrest warrant for him. And he fled. Wilbur went there based on elections. And it is still ongoing. They are there. And I think I took the opportunity to analyze it. Also, Madame Mundi, she is supposed to be a senator sitting in Yaoundé as an elected official from Ambazonia. And they asked her publicly, the interview is still there, what have you done as elected officials about your so-called Anglophone problem? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so this is a trap. These are peace traps, election trap, which the writer says is a submission, not resistance. We must resist. We must resist. And in order to resist, we must know what we are not. We must tell the public what we are. Ambazonians are not terrorists. Let that be clear. Let them understand this. We are resistant to occupation. We are freedom fighters. And so they must understand this before they know what it is. The Ambazonian struggle is not about good governance in Yaoundé. No. It is not about who sits in a trudy. No. It is about our own institutions. Whoever sits in a trudy, as the president of Cameroon, is our neighbor. We are not struggling to do decentralization. That Mr. Nsoh and the rest were saying. The struggle is not about decentralization. It's not about creating a regional house in Bamenda and in Kumba, wherever they give it. It's not about building gas stations in Kumba and Bamenda and so on and so forth. No. It is about the survival of people. The struggle is not about, we've talked about roads. We have no roads.
So much. It's about survival. Yes. Yes.
It is about having the right to construct our own roads ourselves. As Mbeseha says, it is about controlling our own economy, taking care of our own the way we want, putting up our own infrastructure. It is not about submission to a foreign power. If Yaoundé transform himself into France, to the United States, and they do what they are doing, we will resist. We will not submit. We will resist. So this struggle is not about submission. Elections are submission to the people. They are not resistance to oppression. And so I very much love that article. I think if people can understand us, they should understand us. Because I don't know why, I hope Mbeseha Nsoh, Harley, can follow what we're saying. My classmate, they should stop deceiving us. If they feel the election is so good, let them vote in Douala. He's in Douala, I've said that before. You can vote there. Because it is a public of Cameroon that will provide him an office for his place in Douala, not a government in Buoy. But you should not tell me, Mr. Nsoh, and you and me, who are not there to go and vote for their own president. No. So again, I think I give a lot of credit to the author of that piece.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha. Thank you so much for that detailed historical flow of that answer there. I love when you go into the detail. It helps everyone to understand the intricacies behind this liberation move. All right. Because of the time we have, we do not have so much time anymore. We'd want to go into the Buoy draft proper. But before that, let's get the editorial about the Buoy, and Stir Smart did that editorial. And when we come back after that editorial, Commander Elvis would usher us with that into the Zoom meeting for the editorial proper.
As the drums of resistance beat louder this July 5th across the hills and valleys of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, one county's name is etched into every resounding echo: Buoy County. It is not just a geographical entity, it is a living memory, a sanctuary of tradition, and a battlefield of redemption. Today, as thousands prepare to answer the call to draft, Buoy County once again raises her torch high, not just as a contributor, but as a cornerstone of the Ambazonian liberation struggle. This is more than a county. This is a symbol, a force, a soul. Located in the savanna zone of Ambazonia, Buoy County comprises 6 local government areas: Zekwa, Oku, Nkum, Kumbo, Mbeseha, and Noni. With a population surpassing 300,000 people, it stretches across volcanic mountains, ancient crater lakes, deep caves, fertile valleys, and dense forests that have proven impenetrable to colonial aggression. Now, every hill in Buoy holds a whisper of resistance, from Lake Oku's mystical waters perched at 2,227 meters to the towering Kilumijim Forest, which hosts Africa's last remaining Afro-montane ecosystem. Buoy's terrain has offered both refuge and strategic advantage. But the counter strength isn't just physical. It lies in the unity and diversity of its people. The Nsoh, the Noni, the Oku, the Lamso, the Fulani, the Bamon, the Yamba, tribes interwoven by purpose, bloodlines, and a common yearning for freedom. It is this unique blend of topography and tenacity that makes Buoy unconquerable. When the colonizer came, they met not only rocks and thorns, but people who refused to bow. Buoy is not new to leadership. It is the seat of legends. And when I say that, I'm talking from the 1300s, when Nsoh, a warrior mother and founder of the Nsoh kingdom, settled in the lands that would later be called Buoy. The county has kept the flame of leadership burning. Nsoh's spirit continues to live on, most notably celebrated during the Nsoh Cultural Week, a vibrant festival of tradition, dance, song, and homage to matriarchal power and unity. The palaces of Nsoh, Oku, Nse, Nka, and Noni are not just architectural marvels, they are the living courts of justice, archives of wisdom, and keepers of sacred traditions. Secret societies such as Ngwerong, Ngiri, and Manjong do not merely protect funds, they safeguard the soul of Buoy. Even modern institutions such as the Musa Heritage Gallery in Kumbo and the Soul of Oku Museum, the Sum in Oku Palace, reflects a commitment to preserving not only objects of history, but also the philosophy behind them. With over 400 rare art pieces, these institutions reclaim what colonial museums in Europe now hoard: Ambazonian pride, creativity, and genius. So, when Buoy rises, it rises not from dust, but from deeply rooted ancestral dignity. Now, talking about the beauty beyond resistance, what is a struggle without a vision of the homeland? And what is liberation without the beauty worth dying for? Buoy County offers an overwhelming answer to this question. It boasts crystal clear waterfalls like Tolon, Mfwe, Kenshing, Tankon, Mbancham, and more, hidden in ancient forests and flowing through the sacred groves. It caves Mvek, Yufon, Mvek Tabfon, Kinaki, Ekak, and others, cloaked in myth and memory. The Endurum Mountain stands majestic, whispering age-old tales to the wind. At the Kumbo Cathedral, built entirely of stone in the 1950s, history and spirituality converge atop the city's hill, reminding all of Buoy's position as both watchtower and altar of a spiritual people. From the Kovi Fem Forest Reserve, where tradition prohibits deforestation and hunting, to the lush pastures of Kishong, where Mbororos peacefully graze their cattle, Buoy's landscapes are not only serene, they are sacred. Every inch breeds sustainability, resilience, and divine connection. No wonder Buoy has been declared a post-independence tourist capital of Amazonia. It is where nature, culture, and spirituality meet. Now, if beauty is the soil of Buoy, then valor is its heartbeat. The history of the Amazonian War of Independence cannot be written without Buoy County. It was here that General Chacha pledged his life in loyalty to the people's then interim government. It was in Buoy that Field Marshal Nsoh rose like thunder against the colonial La République du Cameroon, making the region a death zone for occupation forces. Though infiltrated and targeted by the internal betrayal from groups like the ADF, Chowayaba, and Capo Daniel's Mafia militias, the indomitable Amazonian State Army, Buoy warriors, stood their ground. They mourned Chacha, they buried Nsoh, but they did not die. Today, Major General Talk and Do, a commander whose name is a declaration of execution and success, leads a new wave, with generals like Hard Knock, Viper, Wonyo, Vulture, Mad Dog, Boy and a Boy, and others. Buoy has once again become a cemetery for enemy forces, each telling a story that colonial occupation is no longer welcome. Even when noble fighters like General No PT was deceived by blacklegs under false unity, Buoy wasn't destabilized. The Ambazonian State Army held their line, defending not only the county, but the integrity of the struggle. The Buoy warriors continue to assist neighboring counties like Dongamatun County and Ngoketunja, proving that solidarity, not selfishness, defines this liberation. Now on this July 5th, 2025, the people of Buoy gather to draft not just fighters, but history makers. This is a collective recommitment to the promise of Nsoh, the sacrifices of General Chacha, the might of Field Marshal Nsoh, and the resilience of Major General Talk and Do. We must not only celebrate Buoy's legacy, we must protect it. But Buoy is not just part of the liberation, it is its soul. If Buoy falls, Ambazonia staggers. But as long as Buoy stands, hope breathes. Let us not let the stories of heroes fade in memory. Let us honor them with strategy, unity, and relentless support. Let us remember every name that has sacrificed for Ambazonia, visible or unsung. And most of all, let us remember this. Buoy County is not just a place on the map. It is the moral compass of a nation in search of justice. It is the fire in the belly of a people who have chosen to rise or die standing. Now, as drafting unfolds today, it is more than recruitment. It is reaffirmation in the rivers and caves, on the cathedral arches and palace courts. Buoy's people commit anew to resist, not just for land, but for heritage, faith, and honor. They do so as heirs of Nsoh, husbands and mothers of Chacha's generation, stewards of forests, and voices of Nsoh's anthem, and every unsung heroes of the Ambazonian liberation struggle. Buoy does not talk of peace through passivity. It leaves peace through sustained actions. Wherever body bags head to Akonolinga, lessons are learned. The Buoy County stands, and in standing, it lights the path for all of Ambazonia. Buoy County is not just a chapter in history. It is a living epilogue to struggle and a prologue to liberation.
County. All right, before we go, we just want to get the last words from our panelists this night on, what they expect tonight from Buoy County. Commander Elvis, Buoy County this night, you heard that editorial, I'm sure you heard, but even if you didn't hear, you know that Stersma would always have something very nice when it comes to all the counties, especially Buoy County.
Thank you very much, OJ. Unfortunately, I was not able to hear that report. But as you rightly suggest, I have no doubt that Charles Smart, being a daughter of Buoy, would be so pleased to put out that report, and a wonderful report. In fact, I think it is. Their expectations are really high, and we have no doubt that Buoy, which is the epicenter of the struggle, has a lot of friends around Ambazonia, and they always come to her aid when the rally call is made. This time would be no different. I think the display of professionalism, the loyalty to our structures, and the fight for the battles of the hearts and minds of our people is actually one that Buoy has held the flag very high up. The Ambazonian people see that, and they've always appreciated it, especially our Ambazonian State Army for their great tenacity. We believe that once again, the people of Ambazonia would entrust Buoy and her structures to continue to lead as they have done over the years. They would continue to entrust them with the resources that they need to carry on the fight to the finish line. We are grateful because as we speak, the Zoom meeting and the link is available. People are joining in, and we are running late already, but we trust that, those that are there have come with a widow's might. Those that would be listening or coming after the fact, they will still join and support us massively and make this a great success. We cannot allow the enemy, La Republique, to rejoice over any of our weaknesses. And our financial contribution is one of our strengths that we have to showcase. This is the moment for such a showcase. And we are all been waiting and looking for this moment. It was long awaited, and now it is finally here. So thank you again, ABC Amba TV, for your streamlining, always making sure that the Ambazonian people are informed, always making sure that we have the opportunity to continue to educate our people. So we call on each and everyone listening to now join the Zoom meeting. It's time for contributions. We have done the talking. Now is the time for action. Let us act, and act now. Thank you, and see you all in the Zoom meeting very soon. Over to
All right,
you,
thank you
Onye.
so much,
I hope
Commander
you could hear me.
Elvis. Barrister Fru, you would want to say your last words while encouraging Ambazonians to turn up and support Buoy tonight. Barrister Mbeseha.
Well, I think we had a lot of time to talk about this draft for today, and I've explained, and everybody has explained the importance of this draft. For our last time might be today, because that's my prayer. Because after winning the battle in Buoy, we don't need to go drafting other places again. That's a wish. So let us all draft. We have taken the time to explain why we draft, what we are fighting for, what we are not. And so until we draft and draft, can we get to where we want to go? Draft without looking back. Forget about any other person and do the best you can. Because many revolutions around the world are fought by a devoted few, not a silent majority. Let us all draft. Buoy is our hope. Buoy is our restoration. Buoy is our redeemer. Buoy is Ambazonia. Draft, draft, draft. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Barrister Fru, are you there? Seems you're freezed. Barrister Fru. Barrister Fru seems to be freezed. We can't feel his movement. Barrister Fru, can you hear me? All right, so it's on this note that we'll all head to the Zoom and start right on time to ensure that we draft properly for Buoy. Thank you so much, barristers. Thank you so much, Commander Elvis. Barrister Mbeseha, you're the only one left right now. I think we lost the connection with Barrister Fru. Thank you so much, Barrister Mbeseha, for coming. In fact, it's almost like we are doing it together. We were together on Thursday. Commander Elvis was with us as well on Thursday, and now we are heading to the Zoom meeting. Thank you so much for being part of tonight's conversation on This Week on Ambazonia. All right, Monday is another time to resume conversation, and I hope to see you very well, Barrister Mbeseha. And once in a while, Commander Elvis, you could just drop by on Undaunted and share in our conversation. All right. Thank you so much. Good night and have a wonderful day.